Hey, Jason Starr here. Thanks for checking out the video. Make sure to like and subscribe right below. The topic of the video is why you need a publisher. Now, I'm not saying you do need a publisher, because I'm going to do another video that I'm going to drop in a couple of days about why you don't need a publisher, because you certainly have options these days. Whether you're working on your first book or you're a veteran writer and you're thinking about becoming a hybrid author, publishing and with traditional publishers and publishing independently as well, you have to think about the pros and cons. But today I'm just going to talk about the reasons why I think you do need a publisher. And this is a topic I do have a lot of experience in. It's hard to believe, but I've published 20 books now. I've published books with the big houses, the big five. I've also published books with small presses. And recently I independently published my first book, OUTLAWED INK, which is on sale at Amazon and BN and other outlets, and you can check it out. So I've done it both ways. Now, the reason I independently published that book is partly is because it was a book of short fiction, and I just felt it was the right book to independently publish. But I've also always wanted to test the waters of indie publishing, and I've put out editions of previously published books where I've gotten the rights back, and I've put out my own additions to those books, but I've never published an original book before. So I did it now, and so I'm going to talk now about the reasons why I think you do need a publisher. Now, the number one reason why, in the best case scenario, this is key, the best case scenario, why you need a publisher is your time, because it all comes down to your time. If you have someone, ideally, a team of people doing your editing, your copy editing, your cover design, working on your marketing, your PR, every aspect of publishing a book. In this ideal scenario, if you have someone and a team of people doing all of that, then you have time to work on your next book, work at your day job, spend time with your family, and anything that you need your time for, you have. When you're independently publishing, even if you're farming out a lot of these tasks like editing and copy editing, those you have to get someone to copy edit and edit, but cover design, PR, marketing, even if you're farming it out, you still have to coordinate all of it, and it's still a lot of emailing and hiring people. So it's something that's going to require a lot more of your time than in this ideal situation with a big publisher, where ideally you got a big advance and you're at the top of their priority list, and you're getting their A-list treatment, and you're getting their top marketing person, their top PR person, and they're really putting all of their marketing muscle into your book. Then basically all you're doing is getting your editorial notes from your editor. You hand in your book. If you're lucky, you get to approve the cover design. And then you go off on your big book tour. Your publicist gets you on the Today Show and other big shows, and you're off and running, and you make tons of money. Now, that's the best case scenario. Often, in the vast majority of cases, writers do not get the A-list treatment, and their publicist just can't spend that amount of time on your book, and they might make an effort for a short period of time, but then it's going to be on you anyway. You're basically going to be doing what you would have done if you independently published. You're going to be doing a lot of the legwork with the PR and the marketing, and they're going to want your contacts. So that's when it starts, when you have to start weighing, like, in the indie publishing versus traditional publishing, when that time becomes a little murky. But in this best case scenario, where a publisher is really behind your book, there's no doubt that you're going to be saving a lot of time. So that's the number one reason. Another reason why another very big reason why you'd want to go with a publisher in this ideal scenario is for your film rights and your foreign rights. When you have a major publisher behind you, your book is vetted. You have that, like, the stamp of approval. This is a good book, especially in Hollywood, where it's ambiguous whether they're really reading your books at all. Sometimes they send out your book for coverage, and they want to know that before they start that bidding war, they want to know that Random House invested hundreds of thousands or $1 million on your book already. That gives them the confidence that, oh, okay, this must be good. I'm gonna let's bid on this book. Similarly for foreign sales, if you get a big advance on your book and there's a lot of buzz and the flashy announcement in Publishers Weekly, and then your agent goes to the Frankfurt Book Fair or the London Book Fair, you're much more likely to get like a big foreign deal for your book. Otherwise, the publisher again doesn't have that stamp of approval, but also they want that confidence that the book was professionally edited in your native language. So if you're American or British, for example, they want to know that an English-speaking editor edited that English edition before they, at a top house, publishing house, before they go ahead and buy the rights and translate it. They also want it, like in Hollywood, they also want to know that it's been vetted as a good book, and much more likely to get that bidding war going. But definitely to get through those hoops faster, it definitely helps to have a big publisher behind you. So that's something to think about, especially if you wrote a book that you think is going to have a lot of appeal for foreign markets. I would say particularly if it's in a particular genre that sells well, like mysteries and thrillers, for example, sell well internationally. So that's something to think about how much, because I don't even think it's possible in some cases to get a film deal or foreign deals by independently publishing. Some writers do it, some who have had a long reputation already traditionally publishing, celebrities, or somehow you got enormous buzz. But if you're just coming out with an independently published book, you're not a name writer, you don't have huge sales, in it, pre-sales, or your book is just selling modestly well, very unlikely you're going to be able to attract foreign publishers or get major Hollywood interest. So that's definitely something to think about. If you wrote a book that you think has huge Hollywood potential, definitely think about that traditional route if it's possible for your book. Another big reason why you do need a publisher, this is a big one also, is to get your physical book into bookstores and libraries. This would be very hard to do independently. I know writers who do it, but it takes it's a lot of time. It's a lot of legwork. It's a lot of marketing to libraries. Do you want to spend hours and hours marketing to libraries, or do you want to spend time working on your next book or doing something else? So that's definitely a factor. But if you wrote a book that you think is going to have a majority of sales as an ebook, that's a reason maybe you'd want to independently publish it. But if you feel it's important to you to get your book into bookstores, that's a reason to have a major publisher behind you. Again, this is all in that best case scenario, because unfortunately there are many scenarios where you're not in that A-list, top priority list for the traditional publisher, and they don't get your book into the big chains. You don't see it at airports. There's maybe a few copies at some chains, and indie stores carry it for a while, but then within a couple of months your book disappears, and most of your sales are ebook anyway, or online sales. So then at that point, well, maybe it made more sense to independently publish, you say to yourself. So if you think you're in this ideal scenario that your publisher is really behind you and you got a big advance, best way to do it is with a traditional publisher in that best case scenario. So these are the reasons why I do think you need a publisher. check back. I'm going to do another video about why you don't need a publisher. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back soon.